And we will do as our YouTube overlords say to do. Well, sometimes. Not all the times, though. But, all right. Let's get in this thing. And good morning, everybody. And here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Well, what a week, encapsulated by what we saw on Monday night and what your waiver wire is now going to see. You need help, you need punch, you need to shut down some players. We are here for you. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund Bloom, Dr. Jene Bramel, and of course, every week we start with our injured quarterback situations. Dr. Jene joins us now to talk about injured QBs. Dr. Jene, what are we looking at?
Hello. Dak Prescott suffered a calf strain on the last play of the game, left the field limping and in a protective boot. The Cowboys have a bye this week, and Prescott, by all accounts, should be able to return in Week 8. We'll have to see how he recovers as time passes. The Niners should have at least one of their quarterbacks back this week, and it looks like it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, who's recovering from a calf strain of his own. On Monday, looked to be moving around pretty well in the first practice out of the Niners' bye. Trey Lance was not seen at practice with a knee sprain that was originally called a 1 to 2 week injury. If he's not practicing within 10 days after that injury into Tuesday and Wednesday, not only is he unlikely to play this week, obviously, but it could stretch into a couple more weeks and give Garoppolo time to get another stranglehold on the job moving forward. Baker Mayfield, dealing with another shoulder dislocation, likely has some more damage in that non-throwing shoulder than what he had before, seeking some second opinions, was able to return to the game on Sunday and is hopeful to play again this week, but could be getting to the point where he's just going to have surgery if he's unable to keep that shoulder stable enough to play, or he's having too much discomfort to be able to follow through with the ball. Again, it's not a throwing shoulder situation, but it is something that could limit him. Still waiting to see if Taysom Hill will clear concussion protocol this week or not. Also, keep an eye on Tyrod Taylor. The Texans have said that he is not going to lose his starting spot to injury. Taylor has been making some progress with his hamstring strain. Was eligible to return last week, was not able to do so. He's not been designated to return yet, but there did seem to be some optimism around the team that he could be able to do so this week. Whether or not he's able to recover in time to play is an open question, but looks like Week 8 is going to be the latest on him. Consider him questionable for this week, and we'll see what progress he makes from there.
Upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report available at footballguys.com. And Sigmund, Case Keenum isn't a drop-off from Baker Mayfield.
No.
Especially hurt Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, this morning the report is that it's not season ending. It won't require surgery immediately, but how many more games before this comes up again, Cease? You know, the good thing about Mayfield is he's not going to play in a different way because he has this shoulder injury, as we've watched him. You know, he's not going to alter his play and play scared, but that also means that we're going to hear about this injury again. And the most important thing, of course, is that this offense with Case Keenum, remember Case Keenum had that year that everybody thought, hey, is he a starting quarterback? And in Minnesota, remember the Minneapolis Miracle and all that?
With Pat Shurmur as his OC.
Right. So he's got Kevin Stefanski. He can run this offense in 2 quarterback superflex leagues. And look, in 2 quarterback superflex leagues, I confess to not knowing exactly how to nail those bids. You know better than I do, but certainly 10-20% reflects that he can be somebody that can be a solid quarterback too in superflex leagues if you need one.
If you need one, as we move down, there's Tyrod Taylor at 5 to 10%, Derek Carr at 3 to 5%. Yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick 3 to 5%, 2 QB superflex leagues, and Tua Tagovailoa 3 to 5% as well.
And this is all just backfilling or getting guys on the bounce back. Tyrod Taylor, I don't know if he's going to play this week or not, but he was actually very good for fantasy before he went out. So he's got some 1 quarterback league value as we start to get to the bye week gauntlet. I know bye weeks are going to rip apart a lot of rosters this week. Derek Carr, and see, you saw it with your own 2 eyes watching that Broncos game. He was making bolder throws. This has been something where we can get into a larger debate here. See, so can quarterbacks change, right? Like we see a quarterback over the first 2 or 3 years of his career. Can he change? Derek Carr, at least against the Broncos, showed me some boldness, some willingness to hang in, to maybe try a low percentage throw, but at the expense of his own, comfort, and made those throws. And that's excellent to see him turn the corner. I think this offense actually is coming together. Like you said, Cease, I think people really need to understand this. There's very possibly going on with the Vegas Raiders, load lifted from their shoulders. without John Gruden there, because everything that we can see, the John Gruden, the public persona, and then we're seeing more of what John Gruden behind the scenes was like. And we'd always heard about, Matt Waldman would always chronicle how Gruden was so fickle about quarterbacks that you were never really safe, right? You were never entrenched as a starter.
No, he wanted to get rid of Derek Carr almost the day he showed up, and part of it was Carr, but part of it was Reggie McKenzie.
Right.
He made a concentrated effort to get rid of all of McKenzie's players, good and bad.
Right. And yes, that is how petty some of the decision makers in the NFL work. So that's another reason to like Carr. Fitzpatrick and Cecil, I feel remiss, bring up Fitzpatrick here for your 2 quarterback superflex leagues. I feel like, and I'll probably will go back and revise this for folks that come in. By the way, if you don't know, if you use the waiver wire report, I do go back after the Monday night game as news breaks on Tuesday and make changes. So yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I wonder, Cease, it's Ron Rivera. You think he might turn to Kyle Allen?
Maybe.
He likes Kyle Allen. Nobody likes Kyle Allen more than Ron Rivera, except maybe Kyle Allen's mother. That's how much Ron Rivera likes Kyle Allen, based on what they gave up for him, based on how much he stuck with him, what he says about him. So I put Ryan Fitzpatrick out there. We love Fitzpatrick. Obviously, Fitzpatrick has more fantasy potential than Allen. Otherwise, what we're watching here is maybe a quarterback change in Washington coming in your 2 quarterback superflex leagues. And then Tua Tagovailoa, he looked okay. He looked like he was in tune with the plays that were called. He was getting the ball out on time. He was pulling the ball out of his running back's belly and making the throws in concert with his receivers. Looked like he had good chemistry with Jalen Waddle, good chemistry with Mike Gesicki. The team did not trust him on the drive to win the game. So this again brings up more questions about where this Miami franchise is headed, intertwined with the question of where Tua is headed. But at least for now, for fantasy, especially with Atlanta up this week, if you need a bye week quarterback. So if you have Justin Herbert, if you have Dak Prescott, if you have Josh Allen, you need a bye week quarterback this week. Tua might be pretty good.
Tua might be pretty good. Brian Flores might not be. Jimmy Garoppolo is a 1%er. And there is Drew Lock. I will refrain from turning this into a Broncos show, Bloom, but there's a push.
Yeah.
By some, because what you had in this 50-50 Teddy versus Drew battle is you had half the fan base wanting to go to Drew. He'd be a spark. Can he even spell spark? Do you know how much they would have to reduce the playbook? Anyway, again, refraining, but do know there is conversation among the fan base, like they should just turn it over to Drew. The season's lost anyway.
Yeah. See, it's kind of like, this is like a sorry Joe. This whole thing is like a sorry Joe. It's like if your relationship isn't going well and you got that booty call, but you're like, I always feel terrible. Why would I do that? It always goes poorly. I feel bad about myself. But, it's, the relationship's a little rocky. You might call that number just to remind yourself again why that's just like a booty call number in your book and not necessarily someone that you're in a relationship with. That's Drew Lock. I think that the Drew Lock in 2 quarterback superflex league recommendation here is just know that the chances of him playing are going up. The chances of him playing well aren't going up. The chances of him getting a hold on that job aren't going up, but we could see him in there. And then Jimmy is going to start. As Dr. Gene said, I think this is an opportunity for Garoppolo to play well and show them that, hey, Trey Lance can start in 2022, but 2021 is still Garoppolo's year. They're paying him $25 million. After all, Garoppolo still only has value in a 2 quarterback superflex league. Get to see him probably Sunday night against Indianapolis. So, you see what with Garoppolo sees. I think we're also looking past 2021, wherever could he be a Pittsburgh Steeler? Where is he going to end up? Where is he going to start? He's going to start somewhere next year.
Right. He's going to start somewhere next year. We are starting with the running backs. But before we get to that position and our beautiful cover of Khalil Herbert, let's get to the injured running back situations. Here comes Dr. Jene Bramel.
Both Cleveland Browns running backs are now dealing with calf injuries. Nick Chubb was not able to practice last week with a calf injury, despite playing most of his usual snaps back in Week 5. The Browns kind of refused to rule him out for Thursday night's game, but it's going to be another pretty difficult and quick turnaround for him. Still think he's questionable at best and probably to the doubtful side of questionable to play Thursday night. He's going to have to be on the practice field on Tuesday to have any chance to play. Kareem Hunt suffered a calf strain. wasn't able to leave the field under his own power, was carted off. Sounds like that's going to be a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks. Could very well be a situation where he's on injured reserve and then take some time to come back after that. So not likely to see Hunt for a period of time, and Chubb is very questionable for Thursday night. Saquon Barkley is still dealing with a pretty significant low ankle sprain. Not clear whether or not he's going to be able to return and practice or play tonight this week in Week 7, so we're going to consider him questionable as well. Antonio Gibson, unfortunately, after being able to play through the stress fracture in his shin bone for about a month without too much decrease in carries, other than just some decreased practice reps during the course of the week, still considered day-to-day, having a little bit more trouble and needed to come out of the game a little bit more frequently last week. Consider him questionable. Washington has a bye week coming up in a couple of weeks. I think it's Week 9. You could see the team decide to be a little bit more careful with him. I imagine they've been trying to get him to that bye week to get a couple of weeks of rest and hope that that was helpful in the future. But they may decide that it's going to take a little bit more time than that. So expect pretty limited practice participation this week, and we'll see what sort of progress he makes in time to play this week or not. Damian Williams tested positive for COVID back on October 14th. He should be able to return even if the 10 days pass and he doesn't have a couple of negative tests. The 10 days of isolation would be up on the 24th, and that should give him time to play on Sunday. So consider him probable. We'll see how his reconditioning process goes. Latavius Murray suffered an ankle injury during the game and had look of a high ankle sprain on the single angle that I saw on television video. Baltimore did not update his status on Monday. We'll see whether or not he's able to return. I think more likely we'll see him after the Week 8 bye than this week, so consider him doubtful to play. Samaje Perine is also on the COVID list. October 11th, you'd expect him to be able to return this week. Peyton Barber dealing with the toe sprain. We'll see whether or not he's able to return to practice. Not much new going on among the players on injured reserve, but I do think we'll see JaMychal Hasty back this week coming out of the bye from a high ankle sprain back in Week 2. Rashad Penny has a very good chance to return this week as well, especially with some of the issues that Seattle is dealing with their running back issues with Chris Carson now on injured reserve.
Rashad Penny. Let's talk about that. By the way, Adam points out something that I pointed out to you, Bloom.
Yeah, what's that?
Hi, Kate. Good morning. It says Sig's glowing like an angel.
Yeah.
You're glowing like an angel, man.
Yeah. Well, it's the window. And folks, patience. I know people tune in to our show for the backdrop, including Kate coming by sometimes making a cameo. But we're working on it. We're going to have some cool stuff, and we're just getting everything settled. And as an aside, we're down here in New Orleans, and maybe I'll make an announcement on the show at some point about, for those of you interested in coming down and seeing me, we may have an arrangement with the other half of our house. So anyway, let me know if that makes any sense to you. But we get to the running backs here, Cease. And I did not list Khalil Herbert this week, right?
Yeah, he's on the list. You don't have a percentage on him because you might have already and should have picked him up.
And folks, feel free to give me some feedback on this, right? Because, and this is, I almost feel embarrassed to say this, but I'm honest. I'm an open book, right? I finally found the page on Yahoo where you can see percentage owned. Okay, the percentage of teams that have a player, and everybody over 60, 70% or so in the leagues that we are talking about, the people that are listening right now, he gone. Like, Khalil Herbert's not out there. So I didn't put a number on him, but I will say this, because somebody in the Hampstead Hokie, I think in the chat room, said, I guess I should not trade Herbert. Actually, I think if Herbert is getting some hype, this might be a time to trade him, if only because you have Tampa, San Francisco, and Pittsburgh up the next 3 weeks. Okay, and Damian Williams will be coming back at least to share the load in some way. Then you have a Week 10 bye, and then David Montgomery should be back. So you have bad matchups against the run, and then Montgomery should be back. So I think that Herbert's window is closing just as maybe some of these Washington backs' window is opening.
Pittsburgh was supposed to be a tough matchup until Alex Collins got 100 on him. Let's get to the running back list. But first, shout out to John from the UK. Shout out to all of our international listeners and viewers. John, appreciate you. He says, usually can't catch these live. He's in the UK, but he's hanging with us today. So there you go. John, we appreciate you very much. We appreciate the running back position and J.D. McKissick at 25 to 50%. Let's just talk about him, Bloom.
Yeah, and this is one where you may disagree with me. Okay, a lot of people are going to be looking for Jarrett Patterson, and that's cool. We like Jarrett Patterson a lot on this show. You know, might back, foot frequency, toughness. Love him. Okay, but I do think that J.D. McKissick is being underestimated. All right. He got most of the snaps and touches when Antonio Gibson was on the sidelines last week. He's a good football player. This is also a team that's going to be playing from behind a lot because of their pass defense. So that's going to keep McKissick on the field anyway. All right. I think that with McKissick, there's something brewing here for fantasy, and I put him at 25, 50%. I don't think you're going to need to bid that if he's out there in your league. This also is just a buy low take, right? Because McKissick is a player, Cease, I think that is underestimated in his quality. He's underestimated in the amount that his role can grow. So the fact that everybody else might be going to Patterson thinking, oh, early down work. Cease, what? Patterson's what, like 5'8", 200, 205?
Yeah, very compact.
He's not a workhorse. He's not Derrick Henry. You know, he's not even Antonio Gibson. He's not a 225 pound back. Okay. So this idea that Jarrett Patterson will definitely get the early down work, his body type isn't that different from J.D. McKissick's. All right. So I just want to make a very glowing endorsement of trying to get J.D. McKissick however you can this week.
However you can. How about Dearness Johnson up against the hapless Broncos? Dearness Johnson is a 15 to 30%er. And Kenyon Drake, speaking of weight being lifted, Kenyon Drake 10 to 20%.
Let's do the math, right? Do you think Drake was a Mayock signing or a Gruden signing? Which 49 or 51? Because the first week that Gruden's out, all of a sudden, Drake is being used as a receiver down the field. Drake is getting more work, showing that athleticism. Maybe he's not worth $5.5 million, but he adds something to this backfield. And again, that weight being lifted. Could it be the best thing that happened to the Raiders was those emails? Who do you think was driving those emails being leaked? What a mystery. Who looked pretty happy watching the game last week? Let's see if we can solve. Let's get Sherlock Holmes on this one, Cease, right? So Drake, it was weird because at the beginning of the year you thought, well, if Josh Jacobs goes down, Drake, ching, jackpot, and then Peyton Barber. But now I think that Drake is more centered as not just the backup to Jacobs, who is injury prone because he plays all out, but a player who can have some standalone value. Let's talk about Dearness Johnson. He actually got in and had like a 95-yard game last year. Let's not forget, okay? He's well-versed in the system, right?
He knows how to bend, banger, bounce. It's all about knowing your entry point and then being able to set up your blocks. People have described him as a plotter, and I think that's just wrong in this system because he has the patience that you need in zone blocking, and he sets up his blocks. So is he the quickest or the fastest or the fleetest of foot? No, but if you understand that system, my buddy Tatum Bell was just texting me yesterday. You think Tatum was, a physical marvel? No, but he understood that system.
Right. And I do think Johnson has a little bit of burst. So let's remember Christian McCaffrey. Okay, we're probably going to see Johnson get the start against the Broncos. What do you think about the Broncos' run defense right now, Cease? Yeah.
Thumbs down.
Is Baron Browning ready to play yet?
They got a bunch of injuries. So you're going to have Micah in there.
Right, who they picked up off the scrap heap, Micah Kaiser.
From the Rams. Micah Kaiser is going to be in there along with Justin Sternod. Run defense took a shot without Alexander Johnson. Pass defense should be better because Johnson can't cover.
Right, so that's good for Dearness Johnson this week because we're probably not going to see Nick Chubb with the calf injury. We're not going to see Kareem Hunt until Thanksgiving or later. But let Christian McCaffrey remind us that when these running backs have an injury that is a multi-week injury, it isn't just like Joe Mixon flexing his ankle on the sideline, no, this doesn't feel right, and then splitting work with P. Ryan next week. If you're missing time, then like Dr. Gene tells us, there's reconditioning, there's more to the injury. So as much as I want Nick Chubb to return with no incident, that's not a given. We may well see Dearness Johnson as the starter for an extended time. And he at least is going to slip into that role. Remember, he was a number 2 back when he had, I think, like 13 for 95 last year in a game. So all these things point to Dearness Johnson keeping that backup running back theme going. See, were you watching the games last week? It was like the first 4 touchdowns were like Darrell Williams, Khalil Herbert, and it's just running back, backup running back. All of the do the opposite upside downs of your running back drafters saying, see, and there's another one, and another one.
Yeah.
And another one.
I've got a narrative, and I will stand up for that narrative only when it works. 5 to 10%ers. Maybe I shouldn't say this, Bloom. I hate the industry around this is the only strategy.
Yeah.
This is the strategy. That's stupid. It's stupid.
Yeah.
That's just dumb. It's dumb. Do what works. Draft good players. Work the God-blessed waiver wire.
Yeah.
Oh, I just felt like cussing. I wish we could cuss. It would be so awesome. YouTube would hate us. Joe would fire us, but it would be awesome.
YouTube, Football Guys After Dark.
5 to 10%ers for DJ Dallas, Jarrett Patterson, and Ramondre Stevenson. And people to say, where's Rashad Penny? That's coming up in a little bit. Do you get points for being injured? He's back, and then, he'll get hurt. He'll get hurt first game back, of course.
Yeah. So it's a statement here to put Dallas ahead of Penny, right? A hip and a glute. I feel like this year glute has now gotten into the injury parentheses rotation, because I don't remember seeing butt before or other things that would say, sorry, Joe, if we said glute.
Your buttocks?
Yeah, buttock. It's the largest muscle in the body, So Collins on the injury report has a chance to play. When we hear that kind of phrasing, then we know he might not play. DJ Dallas is solid, and kind of like J.D. McKissick, no, he's not going to be a 25 carry pounder between the tackles, but he can do more than you think, and he certainly can do some things in the passing game. You have Rashad Penny ready to be activated. Let's go ahead and throw Rashad Penny in. He's a 3 to 5%er, but he's below DJ Dallas. First of all, because what's the old saying, Cease, a bad penny keeps coming back to you or something like that, right? I mean, it's just like every time Rashad Penny gets healthy, we have some hope of him having some relevance or at least creating some momentum, and he just can't do it. So why would we think this is going to be the time? I'm watching to see. I want to see if they sign like Bo Scarborough or something like that. If we're actually looking for someone to get some value out of the early down work in Seattle, if Alex Collins is out. No, he might not be out. But with DJ Dallas, you had a little value in the passing game anyway, and I think there's something there, more so than there could be something there with Penny. Jarrett Patterson, we've already talked about. Yes, Washington was a more competitive team. If Washington could stay in more low-scoring back-and-forth games, then Patterson, 13, 15, 18 carries, maybe he could get in a groove. I don't know if they're going to give him the opportunity to do that. And then we have Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, he's already been in and out of the doghouse a couple of times, right? Like he knows the code to get in the doghouse and get out, right? Like you know how to let yourself in, Ramondre.
His thumb scans himself,
right? But then he gets out, and remember, this is Bill Belichick, known for the red shirt rookie year. The rookie running backs, except for Sony Michel, never get a lot of work. And in some ways, Stevenson has shown why, but he's shown why maybe that wasn't such a smart strategy. Now, Damian Harris is looking good. The running game's looking good. So the running game looking good is good for Stevenson. Harris looking better, but Harris is also a guy, we watch these running backs, and you love it. The Patriots-Cowboys game was fantastic last week, I have to say.
Yes.
Big ups to Mac Jones, big ups to Bill Belichick, big ups to the Patriots for bringing it in a game against one of the NFL's best teams and pushing them to the brink. And what you saw about Damian Harris was the team is drawing energy from him because he refuses to go down. But if he's already on the injury report with chest or rib or whatever it is, how much longer does that last? So you got to keep Ramondre Stevenson in mind. Also, he had a touchdown last week, so he can be a desperation play. 6 teams on bye. Have I mentioned 6 really good? Well, Jacksonville and Pittsburgh are on. Buffalo, Chargers, Dallas, Minnesota. There's some really good players on bye this week. So if you had to throw in Ramondre Stevenson against the Jets, what's the prop on that touchdown? See, I might take that bet.
I might take that bet as well. I might take, I wouldn't take Le'Veon Bell. But he's 3 to 5% out there, right? And it's the old man trio, and Devontae Freeman gets a touchdown. He's 3 to 5%er as well. And Tyson Williams is 3 to 5%er.
Right.
So I guess we wrap up talking about Baltimore.
Well, we basically saying throw a dart at the Baltimore backfield, right? This offense is getting better. Nick Boyle's going to be back soon to really revitalize the blocking and the running game. They all scored a touchdown last week, all 3 of them. Tyson Williams was not active. And I had a notion here, Cease, to put Tyson Williams above them. As again, like if I had to pick up one out of Bell, Freeman, and Williams,
I would,
I would
3
pick
to
up
6%. Yeah.
Right. Because if you're asking me, hey, all 3 are out there, who should I pick up? Williams is the one with a chance to actually do something with this role. Bell and Freeman can be fine for bye week fill-ins, etc. Freeman's actually showing a little more burst than he showed last year with the Giants. Bell, not so much. And then you have Williams, who obviously has the young, fresh legs here out of this trio. So it's more buying a piece of the offense and the backfield and you saw the Ravens defense. Two things happened last week. Their defense started really playing, and the offensive line was dominating in the trenches. They don't want Lamar Jackson to have to be the passer he was to get them out to the hot start that they have. They want him to be able to do what he did in that game, hand the ball off a lot, get the lean on in the trenches, and that means the running game can do something good for us, so just keep tabs on that.
Look at who has joined us, man.
Riv.
It's the Riv.
Yeah.
And you'll always win at the Riv. Back when I could
Beautiful.
do gambling commercials. I guess we still do. We just don't mention the gambling, which is always funny because it's legal in Colorado, but it's like, go for the buffet and stuff. It's like, oh, are we adults or not? I've often said, Bloom, and you've heard me say it, Colorado is the place where we treat you like adults. Mm-hmm. So treat you like adults. All right. Don't say it. All right. So let's talk about injured wide receivers up next. Dr. Jene Bramel joins us to discuss that position.
Not too much new going on at the wide receiver spot. Thankfully, the Giants are still dealing with multiple injuries. Sterling Shepard was able to play effectively last week in his first game back from hamstring strain. Darius Slayton was not deemed able to return after a week of limited practice. You'd hope that he'd be able to return here in week 7, but consider him questionable. Kadarius Toney was off to a good start in the first quarter and then aggravated his ankle injury. Giants are still calling him day-to-day, but you might see him take an extra week off to able to get that ankle feeling a little better, especially if Slayton is able to go. Kenny Golladay dealing with a knee injury that was expected to be a 1 to 2 week situation. Probably going to miss this week as well. Consider him doubtful unless he's able to get back to practice on Wednesday. Washington also dealing with some injuries. Cam Sims was not able to return from a hamstring strain. Curtis Samuel aggravated a groin situation back in week 5 and did not play last week. Good news for Washington is Samuel did not go on injured reserve. I still think the number of times this has been aggravated and the struggles that he's had to be able to play since he's returned make his return this week probably doubtful as well. Indianapolis also dealing with a couple of injuries, right? T.Y. Hilton has a right quad strain that Frank Reich said the team is still evaluating. Felt a little bit better on Monday. They're hopeful that he'll be able to return, but this is not an uncommon situation. Players that have only had a week of practice recovering from a longer-term injury, now dealing with a soft tissue situation, so questionable at best for Hilton. And Paris Campbell, unfortunately, after catching a long touchdown pass, had a foot injury that the team is calling significant. Sounds like it's an injured reserve situation and seasoning-threatening type injury for Campbell. It's going to be a number of weeks, probably 6 to 8 at the earliest before he comes back, and it could well be a 2020 return before we see him back. Sammy Watkins and Devontae Parker dealing with hamstring injuries. Whether or not they'll be able to return will depend on practice participation. Both of them look more week to week than day to day. Same goes for Danny Amendola, who's not been able to return since week 2. The Texans did not put him on injured reserve, but he's been out for a period of time. Russell Gage, on the other hand, did not play in London a couple of weeks ago after missing some time with the ankle injury. It's a good chance he comes out of the bye for Atlanta ready to play. Getting lots of questions about return to play from injured reserve on a number of wide receivers. Michael Thomas, chief among them, still dealing with an ankle surgery from June. When players are put on PUP, there's some expectation that they'll be able to return within 6 weeks and start practicing right away. It really should never have been the indication with Thomas. And as we've talked about multiple times, these ankle injuries, although they're considered 3 to 4 month recoveries, it generally takes players another few weeks, if not a couple of months, to get back and ready to play. There was a report from New Orleans on Monday that suggests that Thomas was still a few weeks from returning. It should not be a big surprise. This is likely to be a November situation at the earliest. So he's going to stay on PUP for the foreseeable future. Traquan Smith, on the other hand, I think the team is hoping that they can get out of their week 6 bye and have a chance to see him this week. Jerry Jeudy was designated to return last week, at the very end of last week. It remains to be seen whether or not the Broncos will feel like he's got enough conditioning in to be able to play in their Thursday night game this week. I've got him listed as doubtful, but there's an outside chance he'll be able to take some limited practices, but week 8 looks very possible for Jeudy. Jarvis Landry designated to return last week, got a few practices in, but was not considered feeling well enough to go. Again, Cleveland and Denver play on Thursday night. A number of players that we're going to be watching their practice participation carefully. I think Landry has a very good chance to play this week, and I'd consider him probable. Michael Gallup should be good coming out of Dallas's bye. Expect him to have a good chance to return in week 8. Not too much else going on among the wide receiver position, but a number of players that you're going to want to watch and see whether or not they're designated to return and just how much practice they have.
thing. This wide receiver position gets one man at the top. And if he's out there, boom, just get him, spend it, swing your sword.
Yeah.
Fire your cannon. Michael Thomas, 50+%.
Yeah, and this is just, and we can toss in Jerry Jeudy at 20 to 40% here and just say.
Judy's probably out there, though. I mean, people impatient.
Just check.
Yeah.
Just check.
Always good to check.
Yeah, this is the time, and again, because our app leverages these numbers, this is the time to just check. A lot of leagues, if you have an IR spot, obviously they're being held, but just check. And with Thomas, what I want to stress here is, let's remember that with Taysom Hill in at quarterback, I think he had 2 games around 9 for 100 last year, and he wasn't healthy last year. Okay, he's going to be healthier when he comes back than he was last year. The other thing, Cecil, and this is just more, you listen to the Waiver Wire show, you get some Waiver Wire takes, but you get some other takes sprinkled in there too, plus conspiracy theories. New Orleans, man. Listen to New Orleans' upcoming schedule. Seattle, okay, they're going to run the ball against Seattle. It's Alvin Kamara week. Tampa, Atlanta, Tennessee, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Dallas, Jets, Tampa, Miami. That gets you through week 15 or so. That is a nice passing schedule for Jameis Winston, right? Maybe I should put Jameis Winston on the Waiver Wire show here. If he was dropped during his bye, get in there, because I think you may see. The other thing, Cease, I just feel like Jameis and Sean Payton are getting comfortable with each other now, right? You feel that comfort zone with these two. And I think that all of these things could help Michael Thomas be worth more than you think. With Jerry Jeudy, we're going to watch this quarterback issue. Obviously, if Bridgewater's the quarterback, that's better for Jeudy. He will be, see, true or false, when Jerry Jeudy returns, he's the number 1 receiver.
Yes.
Period. So that's why you really want to make sure he's not out there if somebody got impatient waiting around for him.
And could make Teddy play better. What else could make Teddy play better is Pat Shurmur getting fired after Thursday.
Ooh. Huh?
Henry Ruggs, 15 to 30%. Let that one hang. Rashad Bateman, 10 to 20%. Some people would say, make more. Fine, more. You know your leagues. Spend more.
Sure.
Sterling Shepard, 10 to 20% as well.
Yeah, these with Ruggs, it's that bold throwing downfield. What you see is that speed. Again, he's fast. And that's why they took him as the first receiver in that draft with CD Lamb and others. But hey, it can work out if you're going to play him this way. And it certainly, Ruggs has that fantasy outlook where he might have 2 for 18, or what was it last week? He's like 3 for 110 and a touchdown. The targets are going to be high value targets, maybe not a lot of targets. Bateman, the good news about Bateman is he got basically the same number of targets as Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown in his first game back. So that's good. Now, he's not going to get targets that are as valuable as the ones that Brown and Andrews get, but there's still something there, especially with Lamar Jackson throwing the ball. Cease. Can we just take a moment to say this? Because I know over the years, we've been like, we're Steelers fans, and that's in your blood, and you're never really going to, shed that.
The rat birds. I hate the rat birds. Brandon Stokely gets mad at me every time I call them the rat birds. I'm like, just because you won a Super Bowl with the rat birds.
But we really have to take our hats off to the rat birds.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. And that's what hurts, Bloom.
Well, because
that's why it hurts.
How many players did they have on IR week 1? Like 16?
Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous. It was a curse. It was something that made you think it was supernatural. And now they are the favorites in the AFC. I mean, it's early to say there's any favorites, but you love what they've done. Now they get Bateman back in the mix. Sterling Shepard, as Dr. Gene advises us, if there's an injury and then an aggravation of the injury, then the aggravation is going to be worse. Now, Tony didn't miss time with his ankle. He's probably going to miss time with this one, and then we'll see. And it could be something that, he comes back. Maybe he comes back too early. So Shepard's going to get that cheap PPR 7-8 point floor because he's going to get a lot of short passes and probably more like a 12-point floor with Daniel Jones there and not much else in the passing game for now.
For now. Bloom, we don't do a Monday night recap, but while I appreciate the stones from Sean McDermott, it's like, dude, you dropped that game to Pittsburgh. You're losing your home field advantage.
Yeah.
Kick the damn field goal, go to overtime, and stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
For the love of God. I think a lot of America is rooting for the Bills, but it's like, that's how you mess around, and now you have to go to Baltimore for the AFC Championship, right? You really want to go to Baltimore for the AFC Championship, or you want to have them come to your place in 6 feet of snow?
Because they have the cold weather quarterback. I'll wind up, I'll do both jobs here and wind up the Cleveland pair at 5 to 10%. Jarvis Landry, another guy coming back from IR. The one thing that I'm interested in with Cleveland is, do they become a pass-heavy offense if Dearness Johnson is their starter? does Kevin Stefanski on the fly say, okay, well, this can be the strength of our offense also if you have Odell Beckham, who's a little banged up. And that's another reason, by the way, to look at these Browns receivers. Odell's banged up. I don't know if he's going to play Thursday. Donovan Peoples-Jones, all he does is make plays downfield. Jarvis Landry, all he does is make tough catches, make gains after the catch. So you want to make sure that if one of those two Cleveland receivers are out there, that you add them if you got a spot.
K1, one of our favorites from the chat. You're all our favorites in the chat, but he's like, I reflexively hit the like button just like Jalen Hurts bails after his first read.
That's right. There's Sig. Hit the like button.
Done. Thank you. And we appreciate you as always. We got to talk about the tight ends up next. And again, you've got tight end help. That's doesn't happen all the time. Let's talk to Dr. Jene Bramel first about the injured tight ends here in week 7.
Still unclear whether or not the Buccaneers are going to get Rob Gronkowski back this week. Again, the lung issue that he had, the punctured lung, should be healed. Just takes a long time for multiple rib injuries, especially when they're dangerous enough to have caused a lung issue, to recover. Tampa Bay does not appear to be too concerned that they didn't put Gronkowski on injured reserve, but it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to be able to play this week. So hopeful, but still questionable. Dallas Goedert on the COVID list on October 12th. Another player that you think would be able to meet either the 10 days of isolation or a couple of negative tests before game time this week. So I've got him listed probable as well. Tyler Kroft still dealing with a back injury that's likely to keep him questionable. Jody Fortson, backup to Travis Kelce in Kansas City, suffered Achilles tear. He'll be out for the season. Not too much going on the designated to return list. We're watching George Kittle and Logan Thomas. Thomas won't be eligible to return until week 8. Sounds like it might be an extra week or two even after that before he's able to come back. George Kittle expected to be back when he's eligible to return in week 9. Got a couple of weeks to monitor him yet.
Got a couple of weeks to monitor, and our man Diego's like, oh, Dawson Knox. Yeah. Oh, Dawson Knox. Let's talk about the tight ends you do have available, including Dallas Goedert, 20 to 40%, Zach Ertz, 15 to 30%, and they're no longer teammates.
Right.
And with Ertz, you might, what's the flailings? That's what Nikola Jokic says. Look at me talk nuggets, Bloom.
Yeah.
What's the flailings? Yeah, flip-flop those things, like Jokic flopping when he gets a soft foul. Ertz over Goddard? Yeah, spend your money. Sure.
Yeah, and Cecil, and that's what I debated. And what I tried to not do when I do the waiver wire report is to just, split the baby in half and say, they're both the same amount. Good luck. I'm going to endorse one over the other. And it's going to be Goddard. And here's why it's going to be Goddard. Number one, big plays. Goddard can make them. Ertz can't. Number two, I think that you see the Eagles are stuck in a rut where they're going to have to be passing a lot. Poor Miles Sanders, who looked pretty good, but still isn't going to get the workload. And then you have Ertz. Now, is Ertz going to get more targets than Max Williams? Maybe, probably. Max Williams, however, I think was completely neglected by defenses. I don't know if that's going to be the case with Zach Ertz. I was just not that impressed with Ertz as a player, again, like adding value. Think about the way Kyler Murray sees. Throwing the ball to Zach Ertz is like your safety valve, right? I mean, that's taking the safe play. That's taking the safe 7 yards. That's not Kyler Murray's style. That's not how Kyler Murray plays. Okay, how many times have we said, Kyler Murray took what the defense gave him? No.
It doesn't happen.
No. So we'll see. But the point is both of them are potential saviors now that they've been broken up. And this was an interesting postscript to a story. All offseason, we thought Ertz is going to get traded for sure. No doubt about it. And he didn't. And he actually contributed to the Eagles, and now he gets to contribute to the Cardinals. Maybe a chance to get a second ring. I don't know, a little premature for that. But I think those are your main two guys this week because of the increased opportunity. But I will say this also, Cease, these streaming tight ends, we're going to talk about a couple of them. They've been hitting. So again, zero running back to the opposite, upside down, streaming tight end, these strategies so far through 6 weeks. I think that the more chaotic the season is, and boy, has this been a chaotic season.
Oh, boy.
The better the strategies that count on chaos, right? Zero running back, do the opposite upside down, counts on chaos at the running back position. Wow, has it been chaotic. Streaming tight end counts on disappointment at the tight end position. Wow, has there been disappointment. So, in some ways, maybe being negative can be profitable in fantasy football.
Yeah, and the one philosophy that always works, windows. Capture your windows. Fantasy football, it's not love. You're talking about booty call earlier, Bloom. I'll talk about love. Like you're forever love. Like, nah, you ain't going to Zales in fantasy football, baby. Okay? All right. It's not forever. It's windows. Capture your window.
Yeah.
You got a window with Chuba Hubbard. Capture it. Go. I'm glad you got it.
Yeah.
You won't have it forever. Speaking of not forever, that doesn't make sense. Kind of. Ricky Seals-Jones, right? Logan Thomas, 3 to 5%. Mo Alley Cox is a percenter. Pat Fryer-Muth, a percenter. And O.J. Howard, 1%er as well.
Ricky Seals-Jones had another touchdown. His touchdown in week 2 is one of the best plays of the year, by the way.
Yeah.
Whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Kyle Allen, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Taylor Heineke, you know they're going to be an aggressive quarterback. They're going to chuck it out there. And that's good, again, with these injuries. Going up against Green Bay this week, Ricky Seals-Jones is probably going to be my top 10, 12 tight ends. Mo Alley Cox probably won't be, but in my heart, he's number 1. He has 3 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. He gets big plays downfield. He's a big play player. He's playing on Sunday night against San Francisco as a streamer. And again, Dawson Knox, Dalton Schultz. So if you did shank your tight end, I'm going to count on Evan Ingram or whatever, and then you picked up Dawson Knox or Dalton Schultz, said, I'm fine. See, Waiver Wire is going to come through for me. Well, now they're both on bye this week. So you're going to need to do something there. And Mo Alley Cox could be that guy. O.J. Howard, well, we got to wait and see if Rob Gronkowski is back this week in the matchup against Chicago. Howard looked good. That was great to see, because the Achilles was really limiting him in training camp, was limiting him coming into the year. He didn't look as limited in that game. Good chemistry with Tom Brady, like we saw at the beginning of the year last year. So maybe I'm underrating O.J. Howard a little bit. The main reason he's a 1%er is because, Gronkowski could be back this week. It's Rob Gronkowski, so he could also be back and then go out with a different injury this week. So maybe Howard should have more there. And I want to say this, Cecil, I want to take a moment out. Shy Lender, another one of our favorites in the chat room. I don't know if he's here today, but he sent some pictures.
I saw him kicking around, yeah.
Yeah, he sent some photos from the Sunday night game.
Yep.
I wish I could go to the game with you, man. One of these days. And I have to say hats off to the Steelers fans, because they did it, Cease. What did we say before the Steelers took Fryer-Muth? Who's the comparison for Fryer-Muth?
Baby Gronk.
Well, but going back to Steelers lore, Heath.
Oh, Heath, yeah.
Heath Miller, right? Mm-hmm. And the Steelers basically get their Heath Miller, even down to the getting him at a discount because he's hurt. And going from Heath to Muth. It's great, man. It's like it'd be like you're in the stand with your kid, and you're like, I remember we used to go Heath. No, you get to go Muth. It's like tradition. Who's it going to be 20 years from now? I can't wait to see. So Fryer-Muth's making a lot of good short catches, clearly ahead of Eric Ebron. Rejoice. There's something we can be happy about, Cease. Clearly ahead of Eric Ebron in targets, and maybe he can have some value here after the Steelers come back from their bye.
Muth, and then the announcers have to pronounce. They're not booing. They're saying Muth. Muth. It's like they're saying, "Let's go, Brandon." Anyway, let's move on from that. I don't know. YouTube gonna strike us for that one? Whatever. Whatever. I'm done. We've got to get to the point where maybe you want to chant things with us to the heavens. And yeah, scream therapy. Does it work, Bloom? I don't know. I've been yelling in my backyard all morning. But here I am, and I feel better, right? As the fall changes, the leaves changes. Lots of reds out here. I guess I forgot. I don't know how I forget, Bloom. I need to pay attention to more important things. But like the maples in my backyard turn red before the leaves go bye-bye. So beautiful reds out here in Colorado, and the yellows, and still some greens left, a little bit. Well, plenty of greens in Colorado, am I right, fellas?
Yeah.
But maybe you need to fire up the greens of your fantasy team and look at these players and go, you know what? You're not cutting it anymore. So whatever you're doing, wherever you're on your nature walk, maybe you're in Watering Canyon here in my backyard. Maybe you're in the big city, and maybe you're in your cubicle. Maybe you're in church. Maybe not in church, Bloom.
Synagogue? No.
A temple. Maybe church. Probably not the best place.
Sweat lodge.
But if you are somewhere else and you would like to join in, now is the time where we look and scream it to the heavens. Cue the children! Who's your shut them downs?
We need to make the mic do the feedback thing when we do cue the Chuck D. Cease, a lot of people asking about Odell Beckham. Is Odell Beckham a cue the Chuck D? And it definitely has gotten to the point with Beckham because he was starting to play better last week, and then he has a shoulder injury, and I don't know if he's going to play Thursday.
Now Landry's going to be back.
So for me, he's a hold on, okay? However, I understand, see, we get to the true genesis of Q the Chuck D. The true genesis of shut him down is sometimes you just need to drop somebody so you can feel better. So you can say, I don't have to, we're at the booty call, right? Like, I'm taking you out of my phone book, right? I'm not calling you anymore. Even if somebody else, even if I later on like think maybe you could have done something for me, and Odell Beckham may be that guy for you. But you know who I think that guy is now, Cease? Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, Allen Robinson and Justin Fields could get going and go on a tear, and you could regret it. But there's something to not having to decide anymore. Now, that being said, they're playing Tampa this week. They're going to have to pass a lot. Allen Robinson's banged up. All I'm saying is, from the cathartic Q the Chuck D, it might just be like, I don't want to have to think about whether to play him anymore. Because the problem is he could have a big game against Tampa. And then you're going to play him 3 more weeks chasing that game, right? So I'm not saying that Allen Robinson doesn't deserve to be on fantasy rosters. I'm just saying I understand if in the emotional way you're queuing the Chuck D on him and Odell Beckham. So I added something to the waiver wire report this week, folks, and I want you to get back at me and let me know if it's helpful, where I try to give these kinds of recommendations in the downgrades. Okay, so here's someone we're going to cue the Chuck D on, okay? Myles Gaskin. 1 week, fool me once, right? I'm probably dropping him for everybody, and I try to give you some recommendations here. So I'm dropping him for everyone except like those Ravens backs. I'll take a chance on Myles Gaskin getting hot again as much as I'll take a chance on a Ravens back having something that they're worth holding on to for later on. And what about Tyler Boyd? He's another one. Because here's the problem, Allen Robinson, good football player. Odell Beckham, good football player. Tyler Boyd, good football player. They haven't become bad football players.
No.
Okay? They haven't lost the things that made them good football players. But the current role they have in the current offense just isn't working. Now, if a couple of receivers go down for the Bengals, or if the defense starts to get leakier and they have to throw the ball 40 times or more, now all of a sudden Tyler Boyd's somebody you wish you had. Are we going to be able to predict that week to week? I don't know. So I understand, again, cathartically dropping Tyler Boyd. I put the demarcation line at the 10 to 20% guys this week, right? So I'm dropping Tyler Boyd for Rashad Bateman, for instance. Probably dropping him for Sterling Shepard. They have similar roles. Shepard is actually getting the targets. I might not drop him for Jarvis Landry, who has a similar role, but doesn't have the ceiling. So again, I'm trying the best I can to give you some guidance on not just shut him down, but shut him down for who? At tight end, David Njoku. And once a month, we're going to get a David Njoku game, and then he's going to go back to the shelf. You know,
although it is the Broncos this week.
This is true.
Landry may be back. That's the key, dude. Landry back takes tight end targets away.
And it could be Austin Hooper. It could be Harrison Bryant. Next year, we'll see about David Njoku. The talent, the physical talent's obviously there. See, I think he's still only like 22. I'm kidding. I think he's 24 or 25. But he came into the league at 20 years old. So he still hasn't hit his physical peak yet. But in terms of redraft, again, you're going to really try to time that. Jonnu Smith, oh boy. This is where Bill Belichick, the GM, is undermining Bill Belichick, the coach. Because the money they gave to Jonnu Smith, the snaps are there, the targets are not there, the execution is not there. Maybe he'll get hot at some point. The talent is certainly there. The impetus to use him is there because of the money, but he's probably not there when you look at your roster.
Probably not there. How about here? With me and with you right here on this Waiver Wire show. Dr. Jene Bramel, of course, kicking around with us as always. And we get to the point where you can be a little more emotional, right? You can be a little less cold. It's time to warm things up, Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
Warm things up with your weekly recommendations to hold on. And who are those players to hold on to in week 7?
I think Latavius Murray might be a hold on. And again, it's a question of for who, right? Would I release Latavius Murray for one of the other Ravens backs? Probably not, because he was the lead back. He was on his way to a pretty good game. Well, in this so much they have a lead back. I want to hear more information about the injury. Like Dr. Gene said, potentially high ankle sprain, probably going to drop him. If it's something that's going to keep him out for a week, I want to wait and see, because it looks like he does have the number 1 spot there. So I'm more inclined to say hold him if you can. Kadarius Toney is absolutely a hold on, by the way. Also, now, interestingly, Tyler Boyd shut him down. T. Higgins, I'm going to hold on. Not necessarily playing him. He's another one like Boyd that might need injuries to really be reliable for fantasy, but he can make big plays downfield. He's a big red zone force, so I'm not letting him go just yet. But see, I'm afraid it's time for us to let go of all of our wonderful chat room people. You know what I love seeing in the chat room? It's the interaction, man. You know, because we care about each other, we care about the chat room, and the chat room cares about each other.
They were talking about The Wire earlier. Like, you
Omar
were the
coming.
first person to tell me about The Wire years ago when it was actually still on.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, like, it's a good rewatch. Every year I try to rewatch one of my favorite series, you know, The Wire, Sopranos, Breaking Bad, whatever. Sopranos is more difficult to get through than you would think, just because it's you know.
The first season's good. The mother is the center of the show.
Yes.
Tony's mom is, and when she's not part of the show, then
yes. So anyway, but The Wire.
Yeah, Michael K. Williams.
Outside of one season.
So this is our Wire discussion, right? This is like season 2 is not everyone's favorite because it goes to the docks, it goes to the working class. It's a different layer, but it weaves into the larger story. Season 5 was a little forced. In some ways, matches the theme of the season, which is a forced story, making a story out of nothing. That's kind of what they did in season 5, and it was to make a statement about the media. David Simon's little newspaper guy, you know. But season 3 and season 4 and season 1 are one of the, they're all incredible, like a treatise on the United States, right? And life in the United States. And the opening scene of the whole series is about the dice game where the dude, someone shot Snot Boogie, who keeps coming back to the dice game and steals everyone's money. And they say, well, if you keep stealing the money, why'd you let him keep coming back? Well, you got to, it's America. And that's America. And this is America.
You can let that one hang, baby.
Yeah.
Let it just sit out there, right? Let it just float.
And rest in peace, Michael K. Williams. You know, sorry, it's terrible to hear about losing him, Omar. And incredible character actor. He was even in Trapped in the Closet. You've seen Trapped in the Closet, right, Cease? R. Kelly?
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah.
And you've seen the South Park about that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Won't come out of the closet. Yeah. So sing it all, everybody. And the chat abides. Yes, that's right, K1. We appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks for subscribing and doing all those YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And you know that if you love this show, then you love footballguys.com. Please go there. Please get a Football Guys subscription. If you love the show, it's an annual price and it's a very good price. It's the best way to support the show. So instead of doing super chat shows, I still have to rant about that sometime because super chat shows are dumb. We will force you to read our comment. And it's a grift, right? I think K1 actually had said that in one of our chats. Like, yeah, so one day I'll get that rant out there about the super chat shows. Hey, everybody. Nah, just go to footballguys.com. We're here to help. We're here to be your guide. You're the hero. We're the guide. Let's do it, man. Save time, worry less, win more. Sounds good to me, right? Okay, footballguys.com. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. Dr. Jene Bramel is at Jene Bramel. The show is at the Audible. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.